Часть из них — это письма к нему. И это материалы для книги «Философия общего дела».
The common task. That was what he called the search for eternal life through science.
Gosh, I can't read it. But I think I can read that. About universal Voskresenia, that's resurrection.
Too hard for me. My friend Teresa did rather better.
This line, which separates the two parts of the drawing, seems to say the transition from blindness and lack of ability to be in charge of your own destiny to self-direction, self-regulation, and self-government. And when you cross that line, then you're in the ideal world where you have the resurrection of everybody, the unification of worlds.
The self-resurrection of man. Oh. That opening clip there was featuring some of the writings of a man named Nikolai Fyodorov, a man who's considered the founder of a philosophical, mystical movement known as Russian Cosmism. Now, I'm actually pretty excited to share this information with everyone because if you're really at all interested in the kinds of things that I've been putting together in all these videos, and especially sort of the common theme that runs through a lot of them in terms of how all this stuff fits into Bible prophecy and looking at it through a biblical and eschatological lens, and the Luciferian agenda and everything like that, then I would think you would find this as fascinating as I do, because this is pretty incredible, because I found it pretty incredible. I came across this whole topic of Russian Cosmism when I was doing research for the video I did on the prophets of sci-fi, and when I was basically looking for, when I was doing research into the early pioneers of exploring the ideas of space travel, and whether through science fiction or through actual scientific research, with guys like Jules Verne and all that. So in the course of that research, I came across a man named Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, and Tsiolkovsky is a Russian who came up with the rocket propulsion equation. And so Tsiolkovsky himself was sort of a pioneer who then influenced preceding generations, such as Goddard, the American rocket scientist Goddard in the 20s and 30s, and a guy in Germany. And so Tsiolkovsky was really trying to figure out how to make rockets and figure out ways to go to other planets, many years before von Braun and the V2 and all that. But Tsiolkovsky was a cosmist. He was basically mentored by Fyodorov for 3 years. And so this whole topic of Russian Cosmism and modern Cosmism is just amazing, and how it is just a perfect vehicle to look at this whole same thread of how Big Bang cosmology, the whole why question, the question as to why the powers that be, or ultimately why Satan would go to all this effort into faking an entire cosmological system, faking a whole space race and everything else. What's the whole point of it? And this idea that I've been talking about before, in terms of bringing it all back towards the mystical, towards the spiritual, towards the same ancient pagan occult arenas that originally existed in Babylon. And that's the whole idea of bringing it back around full circle. But this is just amazing, because it shows how essentially the entire Russian space program and even really all the other ones that preceded actually all trace back to the, because in a pretty profound way it really affirms, I think, what I've been concluding already in terms of this relationship between, you know, a seemingly materialistic agenda and the deeper spiritual agenda behind it. And through this lens of Cosmism, you can completely see this relationship, because that's actually where it began. So I actually found this BBC documentary recently called "Knocking on Heaven's Door," which just explores the entire topic of Russian cosmism and the history of the main figures behind it, and then goes all the way through the Russian space program and Yuri Gagarin. And I'll leave the link below. It's a fascinating documentary, but I'm just going to show you some of some clips from it that I thought were most intriguing, and then I'll speak a little bit more on the other side of this. All right.
Он писал, как будет развиваться человечество, все, как станет более умный, более добрый, более счастливый. Вот в основном он про это писал и призывал всех расселяться в космосе, чтобы там жить более счастливо.
Федоров считал, что наука должна помочь воплотить Божий замысел о спасении человечества и его воскрешении. Христос говорил: то, что я сотворил, и вы сотворите, и больше того сотворите. А что творил Христос? Он воскрешал. То есть, если понять это буквально, то вот что нам Христос и завещал. Не ждать как мистического события воскрешения, а самим пойти навстречу Бога, исследовать проблему борьба со смертью, бессмертие, воскрешение. Космос – это только инструмент, это цветочки, это как бы мелочь. Существенно она поражает его пророческой состоятельностью.
In the optimistic aftermath of Gagarin's flight, building accelerated on a new town in the Siberian forest. It's called Akademgorodok. Artyom was taking me to Izrika, a research institute where the DNA of Tsiolkovsky and Fyodorov has survived everything.
Do you know much about Izrika itself?
I know what my mom's been doing.
What's that?
She's been trying to figure out ways of distant communicating between human mind and other cosmic consciousnesses in the universe.
Their theory is that objects give out information about themselves. They've placed one inside what they call the transmission zone. And there is the receiver.
Ориентироваться в этом еще.
Знаешь ли ты, где ты был, Антон, сегодня?
Да. Рассматриваю, как Луну держу, как глобус в руках, я рассматриваю ее, поворачиваю, могу рассмотреть, приблизить, отдалить. Такое вот ощущение.
Ты знал, что тебе предстоит? Какая задача сегодня?
Нет.
Антон, ты сегодня был вот по этому адресу. Вот эта фотография у нас была в зоне трансляции информации. Вы много раз сегодня ее увидите в работе, эту зону. Но в данном случае ты прав.
They call the chamber that Anton sat in a Kozyrov mirror, named after an astrophysicist who spent 11 years in the Gulag. Cut off from other scientists, he developed his own unorthodox theories. One was that all cosmic matter is ceaselessly communicating with itself. And what they believe here is that laser beams and anti-magnetic chambers like this help them tune into that information network. One of their heroes is Vladimir Vernadsky, a contemporary of Tsiolkovsky's, who said there was a third dimension of the cosmos, beyond things and living creatures, which he called the noosphere, or sphere of the mind. And that, say this branch of the cosmists, is where to find immortality. The man I needed to see was Alexander's partner, Vlail Kaznechev, the current guru of Cosmism. He's now in his 80s and too frail to come to the laboratory, but he welcomed us into his house and began to explain how Cosmism had evolved.
В наших работах, особенно Владимира Ивановича Вернадского, было сказано в физике физическое время, а в интеллекте, в живом веществе, другое понятие пространства и времени. В наших работах в Институте космической антропоэкологии пытаемся понять, как человеческий интеллект связан с полями космическими. Человек сам является колоссально научным, непознанным прибором. И он с этим интеллектом должен идти свободно.
Просто не войти. Отмычка не сработает, не скроешь это пространство. Нужно подготовить свое сердце, свою душу, научиться запечатлевать. И так было бы с чем туда входить. Заинтересовать пространство в себе, в своей личности. Это по Федорову формула, да? И тогда это получится.
Taisia, with years of practice and faith, had much better results. She showed me the record she kept of the images that had flooded into her head inside the mirror.
Задача-то здесь стоит в том, чтобы научиться с помощью какой-то, разработать метод или способы, которым человек бы научился управлять своим сознанием для того, чтобы это сознание могло двигаться в различном направлении, и в том числе попытаться вступить вот как раз с космическим интеллектом, с космофизической средой.
I'm beginning to get the idea. We're talking close encounters here.
Кроме нас в космосе много интеллекта, это интеллектуальное пространство, это много пространств, мы частица, и это пространство интеллекта неизвестно, как нас примет или не примет.
And so essentially we can see that Cosmism is really just another packaging of the same New Age mysticism that we see in so many other places. And it just perfectly serves to highlight the relationship between the evolutionary dream of space travel and transhumanism. And if you actually go and do any of your own research on modern Cosmism, you, in no time at all, you will see that it is virtually indistinguishable from transhumanism. And this makes perfect sense because really the whole undeniable conclusion reached by those who were super serious about space travel and conquering the universe and colonizing it is the realization that in our present human form, it's impossible. And even if you could achieve, light speed drives or warp drives and travel at the speed of light, or even succeed in uploading your consciousness into a software and beaming yourself as particles of light across the universe, you're still limited by the speed of light. And so traveling to other star systems, millions of light years away is still impossible. So what it implies is the necessity to transcend time and space altogether and to evolve, to spiritually evolve, to metaphysically evolve, which brings it right back around to the issue of higher dimensions and the noosphere being the highest dimension being that of pure consciousness. And yeah, you're right back into all the sacred sciences and the esoteric and the whole New Age message. Just once again, it just shows how these seemingly materialistic paradigms inevitably push people back around full circle to that ancient Babylonian mystical forbidden fruit of Satan's promise of immortality, of becoming God. And this is what so many people who are investigating transhumanism are concluding as well, in terms of it relating to the mark of the beast. It's like on a genetic level, connecting humanity to a spiritual dimension and the false promise of Godhood. So hopefully you found this as interesting as I did. Thank you.